You can't just shut off SEO. And so things like ramping up seasonality campaigns or ramping them down for businesses that are affected by seasonality, Google Ads is a great supplement, if not dedicated strategy. But what we like to tell people is every business is different. Every market's different. And so whether you work with us or someone else, ask how they're going to customize what they do to your business. You don't want to just off the shelf cookie cutter package because your business is not the same as the business next door.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Welcome back to another episode. With us today is the CEO and founder of Enleaf, Adam Chronister. He started back in 2009, focusing on helping businesses grow and thrive through smart digital marketing strategies like SEO, lead gen, and marketing automation. So excited to have him on. Adam, thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to having a conversation.
Absolutely. We always like to welcome our entrepreneurs and ask them about their journey. What were you kind of doing before, and how did that bring you into what you're doing today?
Yeah, so I got my start in software development. I got a degree in computer science out of college. And I tell a lot of people this, like I got about 3/4 of the way through my degree and realized I didn't really want to stare at code all day. But I'd already got my foot in the water and kind of invested the time and resources. Still very much in love with the industry, technology, web design, all of that stuff, but just wasn't sure if I had what it takes to be necessarily a coder. Fast forward, graduated and got a job as a project manager for a software company. And that was really just a great fit. I was able to interface with different web design and mobile app developers, get my feet wet there, kind of learn the ins and outs essentially of running a business. All the project managers were kind of like their own microcosm inside this business. And so that kind of got my feet wet rather, in the day-to-day operation side of things. The agency itself that I was at the time was a young startup. And if you ever worked at a startup and you raise your hand, you'll notice that they'll say, yeah, go have fun. So there was a particular campaign that they were running for a conference, doing giveaways and whatnot. And around this time, Twitter was fairly new. So I kind of volunteered. I'm like, hey, I'll create a little social media marketing campaign for you guys. And they're like, sure, have fun. And that kind of really piqued my interest in digital marketing. And I've kind of been doing that in some realm ever since.
I love that. That is quite the journey, having that computer science background where you can see more of the data-driven analytical side mixed with more of the creative side as well. And we all kind of dabble into marketing by offering our assistance to friends, families, or the companies we work with and say, I can run something for you. And that opens up this new door for us, which is really awesome. So are there specific types of marketing that you either specialize in or you feel really confident in that businesses should be following these types of marketing strategies?
I mean, as far as our claim to fame, I think is in the realm of SEO. That's kind of how a lot of people come through the door. I think technically can master SEO. Myself and our team have done a pretty good job of making that kind of our ecosphere. But it's by no means all that we do. What I tell people we do, as in a kind of a nutshell, is essentially website design and development and data-driven search marketing. So that's Google Ads, SEO, and a handful of other things. There's a lot of periphery things we do as well, like branding and graphic design, but definitely a lot of people come to us either for web design or SEO, or in a lot of cases, a combination of those two factors, since they are so closely aligned, right?
Absolutely. It's great to have that full service offering just to really say, hey, we can be your one-stop shop. But to have that specialty, I think SEO is by far one of my favorites because this is where organic leads come from. This is going to be your best nurtured, pre-warmed, I'm interested in this product or service and almost ready to buy. So that's why SEO is a great option for a lot of people. Have there been changes to SEO now that it's 2025? Any changes recently that people should be focused on, or are a lot of the fundamentals just still the same?
There are a lot of changes. AI is a big change. I'm preparing, it might be a talk, it might be a blog post or a combination thereof, but I'm preparing some information on things that I'm noticing in the market, trying to get ahead of the curve. So for instance, query-based search is moving a lot to large language models, ChatGPT, Google Gemini. I think last I checked, about 14% of search query traffic is going to ChatGPT. So that's going to start eating up a little bit of what happens in Google, right? Now, the thing that maybe some don't recognize is that ChatGPT and Google have a partnership. So now that ChatGPT can query the web, it's using or kind of sitting as a top layer on top of Google. And for those that have been in the SEO space for a long time, we've kind of treated being like a redheaded stepchild, myself included. But after kind of uncovering some of the raw data on like where things are moving, I'm like, now it's probably time to start focusing on that. In fact, one of the things that I've been doing here lately is putting in search queries into ChatGPT for things like local businesses or products, just to start to examine the results. And then starting to ask ChatGPT, how did you get these results? And the interesting thing I find is it will essentially summarize how it pulls data from Bing. One of the things that I saw in there that was kind of shocking was it mentioned that it leveraged Bing Webmaster Tools as part of its ranking factor. And I don't know the stats quite yet, but I can imagine that the amount of sites that have Bing or Microsoft Webmaster Tools is probably minimal, especially compared to Google Analytics. So that's something that we're going to be starting to test soon and pay more attention to that channel, because I think we're going to see more and more of that as time progresses.
Absolutely. I loved how you expanded into that topic because that was actually where I wanted to lead the conversation. SEO going to change the game with AI coming into play, where search queries are now going into the LLMs instead of search. And then, just like you said, being the redheaded stepchild, it was often forgotten, saying, "Oh, just focus on Google. That's where everybody goes, anyways." But to see the shifts and changes, it's important to stay on top of it and actually base it on raw data. And I love that you use ChatGPT to even say, how did you come to these results? Have you compared doing like a SEO keyword analysis? Have you kind of compared the two between what a ChatGPT will pull together versus your kind of typical SEO data tools?
We've done some stuff inside of like trying to leverage it to use analytics and that kind of thing. I think the one area where it falls short is the data side of things, right? It's really good for things like visual tools. You could take a visual of a website, a front face website, and I think it does a pretty good job of giving you some tips like with CRO, conversion rate optimization, and stuff like that. I think still the area without some kind of modifications or integrations with a third-party platform to get key APIs, the biggest difference between using ChatGPT natively, say for like analytics, and something like an SEMrush or an Ahrefs is those other tools, they have a certain level of crawl depth and other metrics that they use in their database. However, we have built tools, primarily a keyword research tool that pulls in SEMrush's API data into a sheet and then leverages ChatGPT for the keyword ideation, right? So one of the things that I have on my large list of pet projects is to see if there is additional data from SEMrush or one of these other tools from an API perspective that we can leverage to then allow ChatGPT to parse that data, right? Because it does good at parsing data, but you have to have the right data source.
That's absolutely right. And I love how you're taking really the best of both worlds. It's the actual factual information, the data that you can then
Right.
input into the LLM to then compute all of that, which is just incredible. Really excited. And it's not just ask ChatGPT a question now, it's now creating video, songs, pictures, and now there's AI agents. Now there are specific LLMs that are trained to do a specific task or an objective. We can train them. They can have access to third-party tools. Making payments, calendar bookings, all these things are now possible. Do you see this assisting you and your clients to better serve them? And just how is it going to change the landscape overall?
Yeah, I can tell you how we're using them, and it'd probably be a hint on how other businesses can use them. For instance, to help with some of our processes, right? So we have a case study process, and it's a formulaic process. The process is somewhat repeated across clientele. The data is the only thing that's different. And so we've uploaded a lot of those case study PDF examples and then start leveraging that custom GBT to shortcut the time it takes to make additional case studies. We've done the same thing with contracts. Also, we've done the same thing with our contract verbiage, amongst other things, right? And so any business that has a repeated process where it's standardized, they should be thinking and asking, how can I use AI to optimize this process?
Absolutely. It is a huge time saver. Everything you mentioned, I started to do about 6 to 8 months back with the contract creation. It can create
Mhm.
documents, name them, file them away for you, among many other things. If there's a template or a process, something that's kind of standard across the board, you can automate that. You can use AI to now create these agents that are doing every process that you could imagine. It is pretty
Right.
incredible. Are there any really cool AI tools that you've seen that you would recommend to either other business owners or maybe people who want to kind of dip their feet into AI? How should they get started? Do they just open up ChatGPT? Is that the easiest to get started?
There are hundreds, probably thousands of tools now. I had the opportunity to speak with somebody who works for Microsoft, whose entire job is just tracking all of these tools. And even he can't keep up. But I would say, depending on what you're looking to do, whether it's visual or textual, I think starting out with the native platforms is probably the best thing to do, right? So I would recommend getting to learn ChatGPT. And honestly, it's not difficult. Like a lot of times you can start out, especially if you're a novice, how can I use ChatGPT? And it will give you ideas, right? And so I think the best thing you can do is start asking it to recheck your work or to give you expanded answers. And it kind of will lead you down your own little rabbit trail of learning and understanding. On the visual side, there's a lot of things, stable diffusion. I know Grok's rolled out some pretty new models as far as images. So I think if you're getting started, I wouldn't necessarily jump into a big expensive paid tool before you start playing with the platforms. The reality is, I think a lot of the systems that are going to come out, these thousands of tools I talked about, they're typically tied into only a handful of systems. Right? You have Google, Gemini, you have OpenAI's ChatGPT, you have Twitter's or X's Grok, and then a few open source platforms. So by getting right to the basis of those, that's going to be a good start. From there, you can find other tools that maybe have improved user interface or have a front layer that is more specific to your own needs.
Absolutely. And it's really exciting to see what has come about in the last 3 years and where things are going to be headed. It's been integrated into almost every tool that we even use currently, even if it wasn't like a new tool that came about. With your experience in business, working with all these clients, what has been the most effective marketing strategy for you? Are you focused on your own SEO? Are you doing a lot of social media? Are you building relationships? What's working best for you?
Yeah. So as far as what we do, in some regards, definitely practice what we preach. I would say about a third of the business we get is from our own SEO in our own local region, right? The second third of that kind of lead pipeline comes from personal branding, this kind of engagement, being on podcasts, speaking events, engagements like that. And then the third is referral business, referrals from existing or past clients, right?
Absolutely, that is excellent. And I think it's a testament to a job well done. One, that you're ranking for all those keywords that bring in the organic traffic that actually brings customers. Then you have the referral option, and then everything else from the publicity and speaking engagements that you do, which is really excellent. Your message is resonating with the audience that they're captivated enough to take action, which is really exciting for you.
Yeah, I mean, knock on wood, we haven't had to run ads for our own agency for 4 years. We're discussing maybe making a shift there. And obviously, we run ads for clients, but we've built such an organic presence that it hasn't been a huge necessity, which is the beauty of SEO. SEO's, it's bittersweet because it takes a lot longer to work, right? Having a good foundation is key, which is why we recommend people come to us with their web builds because not all web development companies are created equal. Many of them might do a great job with your web design, but may not have the skills, the data science skills necessary to build that so it's optimized for search. So I feel very blessed that we've been able to keep things busy without having to exacerbate Google ad spend. But this might be the year that we test some of those other channels out just to supplement what's already working, right?
Absolutely. And that kind of really is the end goal, is to not have to pay this set amount into paid advertising when search engine optimization is readily available for capturing that traffic. Yes, it's more of a medium and long-term strategic approach to getting organic traffic and leads. But at the end of the day, if you can have a healthy mix, pay-per-click, I think, has its instances where maybe you're scaling a campaign, you're bringing
Yeah.
something new. Maybe you need higher visibility. Those are instances that are great, but I think SEO for the long game is really where it's at.
Yeah, that's kind of what we tell people. Like there are a few vehicles or scenarios rather where PPC makes more sense, right? If you need to start generating leads sooner than later, for instance, early in a campaign, usually we'll have a joint SEO and PPC campaign so that the Google ad strategy is keeping things kind of healthy while your SEO gets kind of catches up. And then also, I guess one of the biggest downsides to SEO is that it's not as dynamic, right? It's hard. Sometimes we have clients that are like, hey, we're getting too many calls. Can you shut this off? Well, you can do that with Google Ads. It's not as easy with SEO. You can't just shut off SEO. And so things like ramping up seasonality campaigns or ramping them down for businesses that are affected by seasonality, Google Ads is a great supplement, if not dedicated strategy. But what we like to tell people is every business is different. Every market's different. And so whether you work with us or someone else, ask how they're going to customize what they do to your business. You don't want to just off the shelf cookie cutter package because your business is not the same as the business next door, right?
Absolutely. And that can be tough for trying to craft our packages and offer and the pricing structure. Because, yeah, it's like we want to present an idea and an offer like this is what you need, but that could change each month as new data comes in, as we see what is getting results or isn't. That's when we want to change our strategy. And I think that's the right company you want to work with, someone like yours, where they're willing to actually look at the data, see what's working, and then make that pivot when needed.
Right. A lot of times people walk away from a prospecting call. The big elephant in the room is how much is this going to cost me, right? So we have our baseline packages, like here's the baseline of what we know is going to work. So with SEO, that's some form of content creation, some form of technical SEO, and then link acquisition, right? Every SEO campaign from our perspective should have those three things, but we don't always know how much or how little, right? So we do preempt that, for instance, as part of a proposal process, essentially offer anyone that picks up the phone with us some free competitive analysis, just so they can get a sense of where they sit in the stack. And also they can understand why we might justify changes to that baseline campaign. If we see, for instance, your top line competitor are more aggressive in content, well, we might need to do more content than that's in our baseline strategy. Same with links, same with technical SEO. And so that's just one of the many aspects we bring to the table. We like the data to dictate the direction and tell the story for our clientele.
Absolutely. I love that. And one of my favorite things about SEO is it's an all-encompassing thing where in order to do good SEO, you are going to need good content. You need some blog posts. You need the contents that are going to drive some of the keywords and pictures and alt images, the text that's going to be in there, all kind of driving towards that search traffic. So it's important to have that balance and know what actually works. You guys are data driven, which is what I love. Where are the best places to find you guys online and get connected with you?
Yeah, so people can just check out our website. It's enleaf.com. That's ENLEAF.com. We got goodies there, free website tools, some great blog posts. We just wrote a really interesting piece on the difference between last click attribution and data-driven attribution. So for those data geeks out there, or maybe those people that are dealing with different responses between maybe your Shopify and your Google Analytics, that will help explain that for you. You can reach out to us. Me personally, I'm pretty active both on Facebook and LinkedIn, but I'm on all the channels. So make sure to hit me up there as well if you like.
Fantastic. And we'll have all of those links available down in the description and show notes so you can get connected as well. Adam, any exciting things are you prepping for 2025? Anything new and exciting, or are you kind of doing just the same everything that's working already for you?
Well, I did a lot of talks last year. I'm slowing it down, but I do have a few talks. One that I kind of hinted that I'm working on. We'll see where that kind of lands. And so I am excited about the opportunities there and the things that I'm learning about where the puck's going as far as the future of SEO. So more to come on that. And I'm excited to share that stuff once it's a little bit more maturated.
Nice. Absolutely. Adam, you're a very smart guy. Is there a place that you go to find your favorite books or podcasts or YouTubers to consume some knowledge and learn everything that you know already?
There's a ton of resources. I think one of my favorite for those that are getting started, just because it's a lot of the people that I trust, specifically in the SEO industry speaking, is a platform called IMG Gold. That stands for Internet Marketing Gold. They say it's the Netflix for SEO. So if you're interested in learning SEO or even taking your skills to the next level, that's a great platform. I have a course on there related to AI, and there's many other courses from people I trust. Outside of that, I read a lot of books on Audible, if you call that reading, listening, and just generally keeping a pulse of what's happening in the larger space as well.
Nice. Absolutely. And yes, I do technically count that as reading. Even our minds are kind of putting the words
Right.
together in our brains. So
Yeah.
it works for us. Well, Adam, just wanted to give you the opportunity to have the floor. If there's anything you wanted to share with our audience that we haven't covered yet, feel free to take this opportunity and share anything you'd like with them.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to add other than just I appreciate the time. And if anyone does have questions or would like to learn more about me or our team or what we do, we'd love to speak with them. We don't charge for consultations. We love bridging that gap with that initial conversation and see where it leads.
I love it. Adam knows his stuff. He gets results. He's very data driven, his smarts. Thanks for putting everything together. Congratulations on everything. And thank you for coming on and sharing your tips and tricks and wisdom with us. Thank you so much, Adam.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.